Hi. Just out of interest here, who holds crypto? Okay, there's lots of hands gone up. Has anyone, we all must know what Fiat is, do we? Apart from the car brand. Yep, okay, we're okay on that one. Okay, really the idea behind crypto-tethering is taking a digital currency or a digital token that it represents some value and tying it back to something like the US dollar or a euro. So we're trying to create a stable value exchange. How many people have seen the volatility of something like Bitcoin? Who's lost lots of money? Oh good, well no hands have gone up, so that's a good sign. Okay, you see the definition? A stablecoin is a digital currency that is pegged to a stable reserve asset. Now there are stablecoins that are pegged to gold. There are coins that are also pegged to things like other commodities you can use. So in other words, they're trying to make it so that you can use it more easily. You know what value you've got. Okay, there's three approaches when we look at stable coins and thinking about this. And the reason we need to think about these is because they're all quite different, but they have similar goals. So traditional stablecoins are non-interest bearing, okay? So, and they're designed to link to a reference currency. Just out of interest, does anyone hold any tether or use tether? Okay, there's three hands gone up over there. That's interesting in its own right, but that theoretically is backed one-to-one by US dollars. Clearly, if you've been reading, it's not the case, but that's a different issue. The second one is demand coins. So they're actually against a real deposit. Now there are some financial institutions in other parts of the world that are looking to generate that sort of token. And the third one is the one that I think is most disruptive, central bank digital currencies. 110 central banks are currently investigating CBDCs or central bank digital currencies. Any idea of what that particularly could mean for someone in the gaming sector? It means you've still got your FX risk, but those tokens don't have to necessarily go through intermediaries. They may actually go direct from a central bank account via a digital wallet and theoretically could be anywhere in the world in seconds. So we're not waiting for days. There's also a whole lot of implications because if they're central bank digital currencies and they have some the ability to program them or put smart contracts with them, the central bank itself could trigger things and withdraw them or charge taxes on them. There's a whole lot of advantages and disadvantages. So central bank digital tokens or digital currencies are going to be very important. Their impact, I don't think anyone's really figured out. So if you have a look, the Bank of International Settlements, in fact, IMF, I can't think of any regulator or global organisation that isn't looking at how central bank digital currencies are going to affect economies. Right now, probably the most advanced one would be the Chinese, where they've actually done billions of dollars of billions in transactions with the digital yuan. Okay, any idea how many stable tokens there are? Okay, there's 67 that are currently trading. Most, or the ones that are most significant, are generally linked to the US dollar. Who here trades in US dollars? Okay, a few hands go up, not a lot. There is a GBP one due, well there is one, but there's one that's actually looking to be quite interesting, along with the euro. Swiss and German banks and Swiss authorities are actually looking at a privately issued stablecoin. But I want to talk about what's happening with stablecoins. So we've got 67 having a go at it, but there's going to be a lot more private entities looking to set up stablecoins. In other words, linking it back to a fiat currency. Okay, I think the really important thing to understand is that right now, global watchdogs are basically saying stablecoins and those that issue stablecoins should be treated like banks. Why is that important? Because some e-gaming organisations, not necessarily in this jurisdiction, are issuing coins which are backed, or they're calling them a stable coin, they back them or link them directly to a fiat currency. So they may already have a licence for gaming, but they may now need a banking licence, not just an e-money licence. So the impact of all this is quite significant. You need to think about the implications of this. So Financial Stability Board, Bank of England, I think everybody's talking about it. What does that mean if you either issue or start dealing with stable coins? I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect our friendly audit there would have, tax would have some comments on it. And in fact, anybody that deals with stable coins, you'd have to think about them. It's going to have impact on your accounting. Does anyone here, well, apart from you guys obviously have lots of crypto, does anyone know how you would normally deal with stable coins, payments and processing, and use your normal processing controls for financial payments, etc.? Has anyone got multi-sig wallets or is using some smart or hardware wallets or things like that? No hands going up? Okay. It is very difficult. It changes the way you do things because it's based around mathematics and cryptography. So it's a lot more difficult, and you may need to change your processes or think about how you approve payments, how you store that. Have we heard the story about the person that had Bitcoin on a hard drive that got buried in a tip, and it's now worth 120 million? He's been looking for people to dig the tip out to find the drive. Okay, but that's an example because, these things are stored electronically, but you're responsible, or that digital wallet's responsible for them. Okay, this is my favourite bit. Just because it's a stable coin, so it's not fluctuating wildly like Bitcoin, does it actually mean it's something you can use? I think the answer to that one is not necessarily. There's two things to think about: liquidity and control. The liquidity bit is just because I say, and I can actually give you an example. Cardano, I've just done work for them. Their token ADA, 73% of those are in staking pools, so they're not actually available for trading. I mean, you can pull it out of a pool and shift it around, but it's not, as in the sense, it's not sitting in bank reserve, it's not sitting in easily tradable accounts. So when you look at a stable coin and you're thinking about it, you may also need to think about the liquidity. In other words, how easy is it to move it around, exchange it, and who's supporting it? Another really important thing is control. I'm just thinking, actually Block 1 and EOS is a really good one. Now, it's not a stable coin. Most of that currency, or most of that token, was controlled by a very small group of people. And every now and then they put it into the market. So if you invested in that as and expecting it for a one-to-one, it's a bit like printing money. Its value will drop because you've suddenly flooded it. There are lots of examples of that. Interestingly enough, the control of Tether is also one of those questionable ones, where they've actually agreed with the New York State Attorney and sort of backed away from New York, because clearly they've shifted a whole lot of the tokens, and there's been some interesting dealings there. There's been some really good articles by Financial Times about it as well. And one of the issues you get with things like stablecoins, and we were talking a bit earlier about it, is traditional banks and regulators label everything as used for illegal activity, or because they feel it's outside their control, which is why they're all working on central bank digital currencies, so that they have control of it, so they effectively can print as much as they want. The other big fear is a lot of stable coins are being looked at. So anyone here know what Facebook's stable coin or token was going to be called? Yep. Okay. One of the things that's really pushed central governments to create effectively stable government-issued tokens is the fear that somebody like Facebook would control a global's monetary supply and not a country. Because if I could trade in DM anywhere in the world, why would I use a US dollar or a pound? So Stablecoins and all these things are quite significant in what impacts they potentially can have. Interestingly, their lawyer said it was only 74% back. Current audits do not indicate that is even the case. So theoretically, it's a one-to-one backed currency. So we go back to control and liquidity. They're two very, very important things. Okay. A couple of other important things that's going to affect your industry, because when regulated banks are allowed to hold stable coins, you can transact in them. Now, America is not necessarily the most forward in electronic payments and other things. Sometimes they're a bit slow to adopt changes. But interestingly, the Comptroller General of Currencies has indicated to banks they may hold stable coins. They have actually defined the ones they're allowed to hold. You can't hold anything. But it is interesting. So a regulated bank can actually hold stable coins. Then you go to Germany or Switzerland, and now they're allowed to hold not necessarily just stable coins, but they're allowed to hold things like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It doesn't make it a stable coin, and it's certainly incredibly volatile, but the point about it is regulated institutions are now going to hold, be able to transfer, and effectively use tokens. There's a lot of argument over whether it's money or a currency and things like that. To me, a lot of these things are just a store of value or an exchange of value. They're not necessarily the true, can you pull one out of your wallet and go buy a coffee? Some places, yeah, but not a lot. Yeah, so there's a whole lot of discussions on that area. The idea behind things like stablecoin was to make it less volatile and actually turn it into something like money. But again, a lot of that's been driven by technology companies or technology visionaries. I'd also like to point out, if you looked up there, MasterCard. Anyone here interact with MasterCard or work through different parties that use MasterCard? Okay, there's a few nods. Important thing about that is MasterCard's looking to build rails that'll actually bridge traditional financial institutions and payment rails with multiple digital assets, not just stablecoins, but a whole lot of others. Again, that may open some options for the way payments can be processed. Of course, being MasterCard, they'll want to take a big cut, a clip of the flow. Right. I think the three there made all their money out of crypto, so they really like the volatility of crypto. If you look at some of the percentages there, they're actually quite frightening. So what's that? 14,000% on Stellar, which, by the way, Estonia is looking at to use that platform, or the Stellar token type, is what they're going to use potentially for their stablecoin. It wouldn't be a Stellar token, it would be whatever they've renamed it, and they would issue it. But, so some of those tokens are incredibly volatile, which is why people have been able to make a lot of money, as well as lose lots. Okay, so we know they're very volatile. We have issues with liquidity. So again, that's why people have been looking at, or organisations have been looking at stablecoins as a way to reduce the volatility and sometimes introduce liquidity for allowing for transactions. But, and it's a big but, you've also still got to think about the custody and security of those assets, or those tokens. And you can't treat them like you would treat a ledger entry in a bank. It's a different way of looking at things and different set of problems to deal with. For those that are really interested, there's a huge list of articles up there. I think what's really important to understand is that stable coins and that tethering to fiat is something that's I think personally going to be transitory. You're going to have governments issuing their own central bank digital currencies, and you'll have private money. By the way, private money is not unusual. For those that are aware, banks in Scotland still issue their own notes. So, and there are mining companies in the US that have been doing it for over 100 years. They pay their staff in their own script, not US dollars, and you have to spend it at the company store to do stuff. So private money's not new. Obviously, governments and sovereign entities aren't necessarily keen on it because it affects monetary policy. So you're going to see a lot of regulation, a lot of change. And some of that can be very useful for the gaming industry because it may make it easier for you to use that as an exchange of value platform or method. Thank you very much. I think I raced through that reasonably quickly, but the intent was to give you an idea and a bit of an introduction. Thanks.